Brandon Aiyuk disgruntled and requests a meeting, which is why he is in town speaking with his employer, the San Francisco 49ers. Is this a catalyst to getting a deal done? And more coming up on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker with you at BD Peacock at Crocky209. Thanks, everybody, for making this your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We love our everydayers, and we appreciate it when you hit that subscribe button on YouTube or wherever you are listening to this podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more as playoffs wind down and the sports stop sporting like we want them to. This summer, though, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. All right, Croc, getting some clarification on Aiyuk in town. Why is Aiyuk in town? Well, probably because he lives here half the year, at least, more than half the year. But now we're getting, because yesterday, as we were recording live, we got a report that he was in town. And apparently, yeah, he was posting on social media as he does. Players breaking their own news these days. He was on his way to Santa Clara. Why might he be on his way to Santa Clara? Well, we got a little bit of a clarification, Croc, from Ryan Clark. And I saw it via a tweet from Adam Schefter, who said this: 49ers disgruntled wide receiver Brandon Aiyuk is meeting today with the 49ers as ESPN's Real Clark 25, Ryan Clark, former NFL safety, reported on NFL Live. So according to Ryan Clark, he spoke with Brandon Aiyuk, and Brandon Aiyuk is the one that requested a meeting with the San Francisco 49ers, Croc. Now, there's a few different angles of this, because while a lot of people are getting tripped up on the word disgruntled that Adam Schefter used in his tweet to report this, I'm thinking about, why would Brandon Aiyuk request this meeting with the 49ers in the dead season of the NFL when people are on vacations? There might not be lights on in the office of Parag Marate or John Lynch right now. They might be in Cabo, right? So why is the meeting in Santa Clara and not in Cabo? I don't know exactly where everybody is, what the status is of everybody's vacations in the dead period, gearing up for training camp in 2024. But Brandon Aiyuk has requested a meeting with the 49ers, and currently, I think, meeting as we sit here on Monday. But Croc, disgruntled. Everyone's throwing out the disgruntled thing. To me, I just zoomed right past that. That's the word that Schefter chose. Is Brandon Aiyuk disgruntled? Is this him mad and wanting to have a face-to-face because he's got something to tell somebody?
I feel like when I hear the word disgruntled, it's like, oh man, we got some serious issues here.
Right.
And while he's probably not happy with the way things are going, ideally you would just like them to throw out the dollar amount that you want to hear and everybody just be happy. It's not going to work like that. I mean, we saw the things that Deebo Samuel went through. We figured that I would go through similar things. I would say more frustrated, even though I know disgruntled and frustrated are similar, but disgruntled just sounds way worse. Like when I hear disgruntled, it's just like, this guy has some serious issues, and he clearly has issues enough to call a meeting. But I think that's more so like frustration, like disgruntled. If he's disgruntled, I think we hear the words, Brandon Aiyuk has requested a trade. We're not there yet.
Right.
So I think he's just frustrated with the way things have gone, the money that they've offered. We figured that they would lowball him. I would assume that his agent would prepare him for that. Clearly, he hasn't been prepared for whatever the situation is, even though, his agent, Deebo Samuel, tried to talk to him about it. Hopefully, soon, when they sit down, they can get this resolved.
Yeah, if frustrated is the 50-yard line and one end zone is a deal is done, happy as can be, the other end zone is completely upset and does not want to be a part of the organization anymore, disgruntled is definitely on one side of that 50-yard line versus being frustrated. So disgruntled is an interesting choice of words. Do they know about Brandon Aiyuk's state of mind more than the rest of us? Is he truly disgruntled and really upset with the San Francisco 49ers? I don't know. Maybe that's one of the reasons, or the main reason, why he wanted to meet with the 49ers. But when I hear about a meeting I immediately go to, okay, well, what would happen with a meeting? What's a meeting going to do? And to me, what a meeting is going to do is clear the air. So whether or not Brandon Aiyuk is disgruntled, or whether or not he's just frustrated with how slow things are going, maybe he wants a deal done today. Maybe we'll hear about that later on. Maybe he doesn't want a deal done at all. I think what he wants is clarification, if I had to guess, because this could mean a lot of things. This could mean they're signing a deal and they're just trying to get this over the line and finish a contract. But to me, this also could mean that the 49ers are further away from signing Brandon Aiyuk, at least this offseason. If Brandon Ayuk's like, look, okay, guys, we're this far away on this deal. I'm not going to sign unless we get to this. You guys have offered this. Can we close this gap? And if in this meeting, the 49ers say, I don't think we can close that gap before training camp, maybe Brandon Aiyuk is like, well, look, okay, I want to start this season off knowing what my status is. I'm going to come to camp and I'm going to play on my 5th-year option and I'm going to hit free agency. But I want to know where I stand today. Can we close this gap or can we not? That's, I'm guessing, is the vibe of this meeting. And we might find out that, okay, we're not going to talk contract until next offseason.
I don't even think that they can. And you can say, well, I just want to know what my status is. If I'm going to play on the 5th-year option, I hit free agency next week. It's not even that simple because they say, we're just going to tag your ass. So like they really kind of have them by the balls with this one. And I think that might be part of the frustration, maybe kind of feeling helpless in a situation where like, look, I balled out. I did what you guys asked me to do. I led the team in receptions. I led the team in yards. Why can't you guys take care of me like these other guys are being taken care of? Now, if you've been listening to Locked On 49ers, you know Eric Crocker and Brian Peacock have the answer. And the answer is very clear. They don't intend on utilizing him the same way those other receivers are used. And that is the holdup, or at least that's where I think the frustration starts to kick in because he can't change that.
I would say one caveat to that is they're not ready to use him like that today. I think if you sign Brandon Aiyuk, you are telling him, you're telling the world, you're telling Peacock, you're telling the Locked On 49ers listeners that we plan to use Brandon Aiyuk like that. He will be a featured, if not the featured item in this offense very soon. We just can't quite feature him that way right now because we still have Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel and George Kittle. But starting in 2025, the reason we're signing Brandon Aiyuk is because we're going to start moving him around. He was in the slot 25% of the time. He's going to be in the slot 60% of the time now, starting in 2025. We're going to move him around. We are going to force feed him the football and put the ball in his hands. Right now, we love his role because we can force feed Deebo, and we need to force feed Deebo and Christian McCaffrey more than we need to force feed Brandon Aiyuk. But the reason we're giving you $30 million or $28 million or $26 million per year or whatever it is, which is a lot more than what Deebo's getting currently, is because we're going to feature you. But while we have an embarrassment of riches, your best asset to our offense right now is the way you can get open on the backside of plays. You will be featured because that's why we're paying you. We're just not ready to feature you right now. So I would just add that right now to what you just said about them being willing to feature Aiyuk like some other number one wide receivers are featured.
I'm curious to see how this plays out. I think all 49er fans are. I just have in my head kind of come to a certain conclusion on how the 49ers feel about this situation. I think in some of the tweet that I saw clearly said that 49ers are his number one option. Of course, I heard Ryan Clark actually kind of come out and say, hey, when we met with Brandon Aiyuk. So Ryan Clark, it's not like he made a phone call to Brandon Aiyuk. He talked to him in person. And he said there was somebody else with him. Can you guess who else was with Brandon Aiyuk?
I would make two guesses. One would be his agent, Ryan Williams. The other would be his significant other. I'm not sure if he's married or not. Is he married?
He has a significant other. I don't know there. But no, you went 0 for 2 there. All right, so you're behind in the count. I'll give you one more swing at it.
Was it Deebo Samuel?
Jaden Daniels.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I missed one. Gosh dang it. Okay. His best bro. He's on the phone with him. Is he trying to get himself into another city, Croc? Is that what Ryan Clark's trying to tell us?
Ryan Clark said he doesn't know if that's what he's doing, but he clearly wouldn't mind it.
See, that's not happening either. If Aiyuk is walking into John Lynch's office, and look, I don't know all the details. I can't tell you for sure 100% what's on everyone's mind, what everyone's thinking, what numbers have been exchanged. But Croc, if you were Brandon Aiyuk and you walked into my office and I'm John Lynch and you said, I want either A, to this number today, or I want to be traded to the Washington Commanders, my response would be what my dad used to tell me when I was a kid. You can want in one hand, you can, what in the other hand, and see which one fills up faster. Because I don't think those two outcomes are going to happen today. And especially the one where he gets traded. If he wants to be on another roster, that's what, again, I think that's the 2025 offseason plan. Okay, tag and trade, disgruntled for sure. Couldn't get a deal done. Our numbers are too far apart. And now you are a Washington Commander in 2025. I don't think it's going to happen in 2024.
We put a percentage on what is most likely to happen, right? Because again, I won't be one that says this will never happen. They'll never do this. But we put a small percentage on one of them. I think it was like 70% chance, at least in my opinion, he played on the 5th-year option. You thought that should be much lower in favor of him actually receiving a new contract. And we had like a 10% chance he would not be a 49er. I'd say that 10% chance has gone down. I would say it's probably closer to 2% because of the time of the year that we're in right now.
Yeah.
But how do you feel, or what percentage would you put on him actually receiving a new contract? Because right now, that dang near feels, I mean, like there's a 10% chance, 15% chance.
Yeah, you know what? On the other side, let's hit that. Let's answer that question. What percent chance, because it's a much different percentage now than it was pre-draft when we talked about this, Croc. A lot has changed and new information. So the likelihood that Brandon Aiyuk re-signs with the San Francisco 49ers before the 2024 season, or even at all with a contract extension next. This episode of Locked On 49ers brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. I love sports. You love sports. Croc loves sports, and we love them so much, we never want them to stop. But as the NBA playoffs have now finished and we get fewer games and the sports aren't quite sporting like they have been for some parts of the year, FanDuel lets us keep going and lets the sports keep going whenever we want, because there's action every single day. And all you have to do is open up the app and dream up bets anytime you're in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers, not just new customers with a bonus. We're talking all FanDuel customers, a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long at FanDuel. All you got to do is head over to FanDuel.com/lockedon and start making the most of your summer. Major League Baseball, NFL future bets. We've got NBA draft bets and so much more. FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Okay, Croc. So when we talked about percentages of what we thought would happen with Brandon Aiyuk, I thought very low chance he gets traded, but there was a chance before the draft. I thought there was also a very low chance that he'd play on his 5th-year option, and a very high chance, the bulk of the percentage, that he would sign some sort of an extension this offseason. As we get closer to the training camp, I think that has to diminish. The percentage chance that he gets re-signed versus the percentage chance that he plays on his 5th-year option has to, get closer. I still think it's higher percentage chance that he gets a contract extension than it is that he plays on his 5th-year option. But obviously the 5th-year option percentage is the only one climbing right now. He would have only been traded, and we brought this up yesterday when we talked about the DeForest Buckner offseason. It was that type of deal had to happen. A team had to be willing to pay him and meet their price before the draft. They are hitting this Super Bowl window as hard as they possibly can. I cannot envision the 49ers trading Brandon Aiyuk for only future assets before the 2024 season even starts. I think it's much lower chance he gets traded than before the draft, and I already thought it was low before the draft. I think that is the least likely option that Brandon Aiyuk actually gets traded and plays somewhere else. Because what can you get? So you could either have a season of Brandon Aiyuk plus what you could tag and trade him for next offseason. Okay, if you're just thinking about what's most valuable to the 49ers side of things. Brandon Aiyuk, by the way, currently under contract with the San Francisco 49ers. So he can decide to not play and he can not get paid and not accrue a season and still have a 5th-year option next year. He's not going to go that route, right? Now he can miss like whatever it is, 7 weeks and report by week 8 and really make it the worst situation possible and still accrue a season, miss half his game checks this season, show up, still accrue a season, and then still be a free agent next offseason, in which case that doesn't help his case, doesn't help him get more money from another team. It certainly doesn't help the 49ers win. That helps nobody. Him getting traded this offseason, I don't think the 49ers would get more trading him now than they would trading him in the offseason. In a tag and trade scenario, I think the thing they would get more, the only reason the 49ers could possibly get more today than they could in the upcoming offseason by trading Brandon Aiyuk is, and we're factoring in a season of Brandon Aiyuk on your roster as part of that. So you could get less in trade and have a season of Brandon Aiyuk when you're trying to win a Super Bowl still better, right? Unless you trade, like let's say the Washington Commanders offer their future 1st-round pick. Well, maybe that's a top 5 pick where next offseason they're like, no way we're going to trade that. But right now you could get it from them because they maybe are a little bit nuts and think it's going to be a pick in the 20s and it's actually going to be a pick, in the single digits in the draft. And so that maybe would be the only reason they would get more. But even then, would you rather have the 20th pick in the draft and Brandon Aiyuk next year? Or would you rather have a top 5 pick and no Brandon Aiyuk for a season? Having Brandon Aiyuk might, for just 1 year of trying to win the Super Bowl, having Brandon Aiyuk might close the gap pretty easily for the 49ers right now where they are, even if it was the difference between a pick number 20 and pick number 5.
I think because of where you're at right now in the offseason, there is no free agency, there is no draft. You'd have to lean towards keeping him no matter what. Someone would have to throw the kitchen sink at the 49ers for them to potentially make a move. And then you say, all right, well, Ricky Pearsall, time to step up. Juwan Jennings, you're under contract for the next 2 years. Time to step up. Hey, by the way, Cal, the kid from Arizona.
Yeah.
Time for you to step up too. Like now you're going to need all hands on deck. How much do they like Ricky? I mean, it was all glowing. Now, okay, hold on before people start getting crazy. I am not saying that Ricky Pearsall will replace Brandon Aiyuk's production year 1. I think we've seen how just dang near every situation where a rookie receiver has gone with Kyle Shanahan as the coordinator. Like he's hard on them. They end up in the doghouse. They're not as productive. Kyle, you and I have identified, he just does. If he doesn't fully trust you, he doesn't want you out there. He doesn't like you out there. Like just period. Right. And I understandable, but I think it's hard for some of these guys to take their lumps while they go through that. Pearsall, it's almost, I mean, what we're talking about percentages. What percentage would you put on Pearsall going through that doghouse transition as he enters the NFL with the 49ers?
Oh, I think at this point, there's like at least a 40% chance Pearsall takes some sort of trip through the doghouse.
Yeah. For whatever, right? I mean, you're supposed to run that damn route at 11 yards and you ran it at 9.5, right? And like and he's just pissed off, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. It might not take much. And because Kyle Shanahan doesn't trust rookies all that much, it feels like. And sometimes he does. And then sometimes he uses rookies because he's forced to. And we don't even realize that at the time. We find out later, oh, he didn't even want to use him. And now he's not using this guy in year 2. And we thought he liked him in year 1. Turns out he didn't even like him then. So
that was the Brandon Aiyuk situation. That was some of the wildest. When I heard that, I'm like, dang, what the hell was Brandon Aiyuk doing at practice? For Kyle to talk that way, like in the open to all of us, like for him, that's one of those things. I don't know if you saw the clip about Matthew Stafford's wife. Did you hear it?
Yeah, I did see that. I felt bad for Matthew Stafford, to be honest with you, a little bit.
I actually put the blame on him. Like, bro, if you're not a dog like that, then you better wife her up. And you didn't want to wife her until she started seeing the back of it. And now all of a sudden you want to go sit in her car and wait for her and all that. Like you should have, if you knew that's how you felt about her, should have never let her go in the first place. So I put a lot of blame on him. But the blame I put on her is we didn't need to know that. Right? Like I just didn't need to know that detail in your relationship. And with Kyle Shanahan, he does it sometimes. Him and John Lynch, they say some things at times. Hey, Kyle, we didn't need to know that. We didn't need to know that Brandon Aiyuk would not have played as a rookie if you had healthier receivers. Like if guys just didn't get hurt, I would not have played and had the good, or at least what we thought was a good rookie year. So guys end up in that doghouse, man.
Yeah, there is some similarities between Kelly Stafford and Kyle Shanahan. Now that you mention it, they both got the dog in them, and the guy who played for the Bulldogs, the Georgia Dogs, didn't have the dog in him at the time when he needed it. But yeah, that's something. Coach speak from Kelly Stafford would be important, and I think she thought she said something great there. didn't come off that way. That's something that needs to stay private. Matthew Stafford probably not happy that that's public information right now. It doesn't, and again, it's one of those things, doesn't help anybody. That didn't help either one of them.
I think what she was doing was trying to tell a romantic story, and all you did was put in like the vision in everybody else's head that you were getting plowed by the backup quarterback, and then your now husband couldn't take it and was like, okay, I'll take you. I love you.
Oh man. All right.
He's still to blame. Hey, everybody out there, if you're listening, if you ain't a dog, don't try to be a dog. Just love the girl.
Yeah.
All right. And if he would have loved her from the jump, we would have never gotten this story that we did not need to hear.
I think it's a good lesson. A lot of people, draft prospects, this happened. Every single draft prospect says they're a dog. They're not all dogs.
Not everybody's a dog.
Not everyone's a dog, and that's okay. It's okay.
Matthew, that might be why Matthew Stafford, that's why, and he finally got the Super Bowl. Maybe that's what he was missing. We found out he ain't as much a dog as he thinks. Because I ain't going to talk about me in college.
But so smart, Croc, taking your own advice.
Yeah.
We don't need to speak on the things from college. That needs to go unsaid right now. We need coach speak right now on those things that happen in college.
If you ain't a dog, you know what I'm saying? Just love her. All right.
All right. I want to change the subject next. I don't know what it means that Brandon Aiyuk's meeting. I think it is significant because this is a time of year when this doesn't happen. So something's going on. Do we find out in the coming days that they got a deal done this week or that they're going to shelve talks? That's my hypothesis. It's going to be one of those two things that happens this week with Brandon Aiyuk in the San Francisco 49ers. Next, Breece Hall, star running back in the NFL. He's excited because it's a barometer game for him in week 1. He says he's healthy. He can't wait to play against one of the game's best and show that he is also one of the game's best against Christian McCaffrey and the 49ers in week 1. All right, so Christian McCaffrey is, I also thought it was pretty funny earlier this offseason, and McCaffrey's not a young guy. He's going into age 27 or 28 season, right? He's in his late 20s. He's already old enough, and this makes me feel super old, right? Because I remember watching his dad, and I was compared, by the way, Brian Peacock on the field, Croc, was compared to Ed McCaffrey, Christian McCaffrey's dad. That was my style. 6'4", white guy, wide receiver. You thought you could cover him? Guess what? Turns out you couldn't cover him. That's why I was compared to easy Ed McCaffrey back in the day.
Real quick, Christian McCaffrey turned 28 on June 7th.
Okay, so age 28 season now. Yeah, he just had his birthday. He turned 28 years old. And new undrafted rookie for the 49ers, Cody Schrader, he's like, oh, that's my idol. I grew up watching Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey's 28 years old, you know? It's like, dang, it really starts to make you feel old. Christian McCaffrey probably doesn't like that, hearing that from one of the rookies on the team either, even though they're only, 6 years apart, I guess. And actually, they might be less than that because Schrader played for like 5 years in college. He's probably got to be 23 years old, maybe 24.
Oh, yeah. Well, the thing with, remember, all the guys that the 49ers drafted, or he wasn't even drafted, but yeah, they're all like 24 years old. They were older. The thing with Schrader, he's probably watching him going back all the way. First of all, Cody Schrader is another white guy, right? So, like, if I was a white running back and I want to see examples of what I look like Toby Gerhardt, Christian McCaffrey, and Travis Jervey back in the day, and he's too young for Travis Jervey. All right. So, 49er legend Travis Jervey. But
Jervey, that was a great pull. I haven't thought of that name in a long time. Yeah. And all those guys, you're like, yeah, the guy you're gonna love the most is Christian McCaffrey for sure. But that happens to me too. I think of guys like when I was in high school, you're watching a guy playing college, you're like, oh, that's a grown man. He's so much older than me. You're 16, that dude's 19, you know? And so when those guys retire, I'm like, well, that guy's got to be 50 years old. It's like, no, he's 39. He's like, what the hell, dude?
Yeah. So I think that's what Cody Schrader, he watched Stanford, Christian McCaffrey. Then he continued to watch Christian McCaffrey in the NFL. And it's like, hey, reminds me of myself, just better. You know? And then, you know, eventually, oh man, we're on the same team. Dude, I've been watching you your whole career, for the last now. I mean, if you go all the way back to college, what 11 years or so?
Yeah. He was drafted in 2017, came out early, so 3 years. So 2014, he'd have been a freshman, right? Something like that. By the way, so Breece Hall said this about Christian McCaffrey and the 49ers. He said, quote, "I feel like right now McCaffrey's the best in the league. To me, he sets the standard. We're going to see him in week 1, and we're playing against some of the best linebackers. For me, it's exciting just to see where I stand and really let everyone see my full talent now that I'm healthy." And I think Breece Hall is right there. And, if you're drafting fantasy running backs this year, Christian McCaffrey's 1, Breece Hall's probably 2, and then like Bijan Robinson's number 3. Like the do-it-all running backs, they can make big plays. They can run between the tackles, but it's that dynamic ability that those guys have, and Christian McCaffrey is the best in the league. So just the thing that really stood out to me is like the confidence from him saying, "Look, I'm healthy now. I'm out to show that I'm in the category of the best in the league." But also, it wasn't like, you know how guys do, and this is like that fake dog thing, and guys always say like, "Oh, who's the best in the league?" Well, I'm the best in the league. And it's like, dude, you're like third string on your own team. You know you're not as good as this other dude, right? But guys always want to say that. They're like, "Oh, no, I'm number 1," and then Christian McCaffrey's number 2. No, he's like, "No, this guy right now is the best in the league." And I can't wait to see how I stack up and show you guys that I'm also on that level. So I thought it was a cool comment. He showed confidence and humility at the same time. I think humility is lost sometimes, and guys have to be overconfident and fake it. Breece Hall, fun to watch. He seems like he gets it.
I think anybody that watched Brock Purdy, matter of fact, it's crazy. I watched Iowa games to watch more of Breece Hall, not knowing who their quarterback was. Like I didn't really pay attention to Brock like that, and maybe I should have, right? But you saw the workload that was given to Breece Hall, and he did catch the ball at the backfield, made guys miss in space, had good breakaway speed, did a really good job running. Like they leaned on him. If you look at Breece Hall's stats from college, it almost looks like video game stats. And for him to say, "Hey man, I feel like I'm up there." If Breece Hall, if he didn't tear his ACL his rookie year, he was going to be rookie of the year. Tore his ACL, opened the door for his teammate to win it. But a lot of talent in that back there. Tough thing with running backs is, and this was part of our discussion when the 49ers traded for Christian McCaffrey, backs get hurt. So as good as Breece Hall is, got to stay healthy.
Got to stay healthy. That's true for every running back in the NFL. And so it's going to be fun to watch a healthy Breece Hall in week 1. This is a good matchup, man, in week 1 too. Like we get lost in all the offseason stuff, but there's real football games coming. And week 1 is the New York Jets. And guess what? This isn't the same old Jets unless Aaron Rodgers tears his Achilles again 4 snaps into the season, because they got a Hall of Fame quarterback now. And it's the one thing that's dogged that team. You got Robert Saleh, his familiarity with the 49ers. They're going to come up with something to try to stop the 49ers. They're good at running back. They're good at wide receiver. They're good on the defensive side of the ball. So this is going to be a heck of a matchup. This is a prime time type of a matchup. This is like a playoff caliber matchup to start the season in week 1. And the running backs are no different. Like this is a big time matchup. 2 of the best running backs, maybe the 2 best running backs in the NFL right now, starting off against each other in week 1. So I can't wait for it. And it's a good reminder. It's like, oh yeah, there's real football games that are going to happen. And I can't wait for that week 1 matchup. We're going to learn a lot about both teams, I think, with the Jets and the 49ers in week 1.
There's this running back that's available right now. I know we're talking about running backs. This guy has nothing to do with that game, but what the heck happened with Dalvin Cook? Like just how he was, it looked like he was on the rise to stardom and he was so good. And then all of a sudden, nobody wants Dalvin Cook. Like that's how fast it happens in the NFL at running back. I feel like more than any other position in the league.
And how old is Dalvin Cook?
He ain't old.
28 years old.
28. Was he the same class as McCaffrey and Leonard Fournette?
27. Yeah.
Cook,
he was
second round.
Yeah, second round pick in 2017. He's almost 29 though. So he was, because remember, McCaffrey was a true junior when he came out. He only played 3 years of college. So I think Dalvin Cook was either a true senior or a 3rd year or a 4th year junior coming out. So he's about to turn 29. So he's almost 1 calendar year older than
probably was
than
a holdback. He probably was a holdback coming out of high school. I bet. At some point he got held back. So he was just older graduating high school. I bet that's what happened. I see that a lot now.
I mean, to be a year older playing against, I mean, it's huge. I know it's not as big for draft picks in football as it is in baseball. Baseball, it's massive. How old you are versus your league. So if you're a 19-year-old and you're crushing it in AA against guys who are 20, 21, that's huge. But if you're 22 years old, 23, and you're having this massive season in AA, it's like, why don't they call up this one guy? And it's like, well, it's because you're 3 years older than the guys you're playing against, right? So I think something's breaking up here. So I think that's time for us to get out of here in this podcast. But all right, we were talking percentages. Croc. What's your percentage that we wake up tomorrow? Brandon Aiyuk has a new contract.
5% chance. They're meeting with him out of like formality. All right, like they're meeting with Brandon Aiyuk because it's like, hey, you want to talk? Let's talk. Let's discuss this. But I don't expect anything to get done. Not yet, at least. Not yet. But who knows? We will continue to keep an eye on this. We'll continue to watch this situation between Brandon Aiyuk, the San Francisco 49ers. We want to thank everyone for making Locked On 49ers your first listen of the day. And for your second listen of the day, go ahead and check out Peacock and Williamson. Yes, my co-host Brian Peacock. He is on another show on the Locked On Network. So tune into that. And tomorrow we will have Winky Wednesday, getting into all things 49ers and a little bit of Brian Peacock, a little bit of Brock Purdy talk. All that next. See ya.